Are rising interest rates stressing you out? Or is someone you know struggling to pay their mortgage? My latest book, How to Pay Your Mortgage Off in 10 Years, even when interest rates are going up, has smart strategies to help you tackle your mortgage faster. Say goodbye to financial stress and say hello to financial freedom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, The Joyful Frugalista. And now here's your host, Serena Bird.
Humour Frugalistas, and welcome. Today I have a special guest. Of course, all of my guests are special. But today we're going to talk about something that I'm especially passionate about, and that is reducing and preventing food waste. But first, I have a favour to ask of you. If you enjoy this podcast and find it useful for you, please pay it forward by sharing with a friend. And even better, please follow this podcast, The Joyful Frugalista. I love comments as well. Today I'm going to chat with Dr. Ananya Bhattacharya from Monash University about food waste, especially in the commercial sector. Anya is a senior lecturer at Monash Business School and passionate researcher about food supply chain and food waste issues. She's published multiple academic articles on food supply chain and food waste, including causes and consequences of food waste and how food waste happens in different downstream stages or at the interfaces. She also studies circular economy and explores ways through which the food industry can reduce, reuse and recycle food and other waste. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on the Joyful Frugalista podcast.
Thank you very much, Serena. And that's really a nice introduction that you gave about me. So thank you very much. And thank you all your listener for listening to our podcast.
Thank you. Now, how did you get interested in this issue of food waste?
That's a very good question. Actually, when I started at Monash Business School, during my interview, I remember our interview panelist asked me these questions that now you have finished your study and what do you see yourself in next 5 or 10 years journey? What would be your interest in research? And first thing that came to my mind is food, because personally, I'm a very foodie. So I like to try all different types of food. And so I thought, why not I try to do some research in the food supply chain? So I started that journey. And when I was doing my research, like initial literature review, searching online, trying to see what are the recent trends, I found out like food waste is a big challenge. But remember, when I was doing that initial research, food waste was, people started talking about it, but not like agenda, like everyone was aware of that or everyone is doing that. So I thought, let's do some literature review to see what industry has to say about it and what business has to say about it or what academic line is talking about it. So that's where my initial research started. And the article that you mentioned is the antecedent and consequences of food waste. That's where I started doing all the data collection. And I realized that, okay, food waste is such a big issue that not many people know or aware about it. And let's start the research on it. So that's where my passion started.
The passion started as a foodie.
Yes. Yeah. I love food. And then I realized, how come people start wasting food? Because that's something basic necessity, but also something like we cherish. So then I thought, okay, people started wasting food. Must be there is a reason behind it. And then I start looking at the reasons. And that's where my initial article is all about the antecedents behind food waste. So why people are wasting food. And when we do waste food, what are the consequences for that? So yeah, the passion, I'm a foodie, and then my research interest, that's all combined together.
So how big of a problem is food waste?
I guess most of us know one important data, which is coming from United Nations and saying that 1/3 of what we produce is wasted. So that's the global data that we have. Now, if you look at Australia-specific data, which is around 7.6 million tons of food waste every year, and which is, if you don't understand how much is 7.6 million, which is enough to fill our Melbourne cricket ground 9 times. So if you've been to MCG, you know how big that is. So we can fill that 9 times with all the wastage we are doing. If you are interested about the economic impact, which all are nowadays, so it's around 36.6 billion of Australian economy is wasted because we are wasting food. And another amazing data is 70% of that is perfectly edible. So if you're really careful, then we could have saved 70% of that waste going to the landfill. So that is really the overall waste data. Now, because our research is on food service business, so we try to see how much of that waste is coming from the food service business, means the cafeterias, restaurants, takeaways, bakeries. We found out that around 18% of that total waste, or around 6.5 billion of that waste, is coming from the restaurants, cafeterias. So,
wow.
As you can see, Serena, it's like a huge amount we are talking about, and we could really save some of those money without wasting them.
And that's a phenomenal amount that our food sector is wasting. And I guess, they have really strong food safety standards, don't they? Particularly in Australia. You don't want to get food poisoning from when you go out to a restaurant. So how do they manage that need to have fresh, safe food with reducing food waste?
And that's the biggest reason, because our research found out that the reasons why food waste happening a lot in these restaurants and cafeterias is because of the too much focus on the safety issues. So government regulation is saying that you can't use the food that you have in the buffet, in the morning buffet. You cannot use that in the afternoon because you have to throw them like within 2 or 3 hours. Likewise, in the fast food restaurants, it is not used, you cannot reuse it again. So that is we are focusing too much on the food safety issues. That's why even the food is a perfect quality. It's not unsafe, but we have to throw it. So there is no balance here. And the industry norm is follow the legal aspect more than the food waste, which is currently is very much ethical aspect. So follow the legal aspect rather than ethical aspect. So that is why.
Yeah. It is important, especially buffets. It's really easy to get sick and you don't want to be eating things that have been around for a while. But a lot of them are, you look at things and you think there's nothing really wrong with that. Like, things like raw meat and so forth, you can understand. But
yeah, it is. Yeah. So industry norm, which is one of the deep social ideas we have, is it's okay to waste food because we can't control everything. So if it is a sunny day, we know there will be a lot of customers coming inside to my eatery. But if it is a cloudy day, rainy day, windy day, maybe there's not enough customers. But we can't predict weather beforehand. So for a business, they have to order a certain amount as a buffer without knowing what will be the weather, what will be the customer demand. So those sort of wastage is already written within their budget. So they know it's part of their job. So they can't have a system where there is no wastage at all. And then there is the customer demand. Some customers order too much food. Some customers are very picky about what they're eating, but they don't want to think about that when they're ordering. So those things are all there, which industry can't control. So naturally, there's a lot of waste happening.
So let's talk about it from the consumer angle. So consumers going out to eat, out to dinner, it's a special celebration or just because, what can they do to reduce waste?
What we suggested is in many culture, it's again, in many culture and again, hidden social norm is when you invite someone, you overorder. You show them quantity. So you show them the quantity, the lot of things. So for us, the suggestion is not the quantity, quality. You focus on, you highlight the quality of the food that you're offering them rather than how much you're ordering them. So that is number one suggestion we have. The second one we have is, nowadays, we are very picky about the amount of carb we go for, amount of protein we go for, veggies we go for. So if you see that your customers are, or maybe the people who invited are, you're definitely inviting someone close friends. So you know what is their preference. So if they don't want carb, they don't want the sides like too much salad, etc., have them optional rather than mandatory. So you don't need those sides.
So the good old buffet table or helping yourself can actually help in some instances?
Yes, definitely. And we have seen in many, after COVID, we have seen those extra, in many Italian restaurants, when you go, they give you the bread and the oil. Nowadays, after COVID, we have seen that those sort of things have been stopped. So it's not given nowadays in many cases. So that's in a way, it's good because then you are not wasting those sort of extra bread, salads, and all those things which are extra. People don't really enjoy them.
I don't know. There's some people in my family who enjoy the bread that comes out, although a lot of diet books do talk about not filling up on that first. Why is there a trend away from offering these free things like bread as soon as you sit down?
That's the primary reason is saving money, because they have seen that customers really not enjoying them. It's not coming as a part of their food waste reduction strategy. It's purely because it's saving them money, because they have to throw up like bowls and bowls of breads nowadays. So it's better for them to stop it. That's the reason coming based on my research.
So has the cost of living crisis and the increased cost of food led to restaurants and cafes and so forth reducing their food waste as a way to save money?
At this stage, we didn't find that. Maybe that we'll see in coming years. But when we interviewed, which was last year, we didn't see that, because the people who we interviewed, they keep saying that when customers come as a dining part or takeaway, they don't want to hear about food waste. They are here to enjoy their time with their friends, their colleagues, etc. So we don't want to remind them about something that force them to feel guilty. Mm-hmm. So if we talk a lot about don't waste this, don't waste that, don't take too much, you can't, then they may leave my premise and go to somewhere else. So which is not exactly good for our business. And consumer really don't care when they're out having dinner, what they're wasting or not, how much money they're wasting. They want to have a peace of mind and relax. So we didn't see customers really care about saving money when they're out in the dinner or in the lunch. And business also trying to reduce the cost of running business in different ways rather than focusing too much on food waste. Because that's, as I said before, that's part of their budget already written. That loss is part of their budget. So they can't control anything. But on the other hand, they're using some technology, some AI technology, and very common technology they're using is called Lean Path, which is helping them to measure how the waste is happening, where the waste is happening, and how much they could solve from their end to reduce the waste. And that's where one of our suggestions is when you prepare something, you generate a lot of off cuts. So they don't throw them. They're using them to make sauce, some curries, some juice out of that and selling that to the customer.
So they're thinking of secondary byproducts that they can make from their waste.
Yeah. So there are a lot of videos out there which is telling people how to do that. And the restaurant's owner and the chefs, they're getting their ideas from those videos, teaching them what to do with those offcuts.
It's great, actually. And I must admit, being a bit frugal, I tend to do a lot of these things. For instance, recently we've been eating a lot of apples and I keep the cores and we make apple cider from them. Or at least I try to. I sort of have mixed results with my apple cider, but when it works quite well.
Yes. And especially like when you cutting broccoli or cauliflower and say something like that, you cut a lot of parts, which you throw them, but we can definitely use them to make sauce and something else. So chefs are getting training to do all this. And that's the way they're trying to reduce the waste and save some of the money.
I actually really love cauliflower and broccoli stalks. So I slice them up and stir fry them. They're really yummy. I actually think they're the best bit.
Yes. You can put them in curry and sauce and soup, broth, everything is good. Yeah.
So how do people make leftover with soup? They just sort of keep things aside or freeze them till they're needed?
Yeah. So most of the time at the end of the day, when they have a lot of those things, or middle of the day when they have a lot of those things, they actually start making something. Initially, I know one chef told us that initially we're taking a trial and making something and giving it to our own employees. And later when staff saying it's a good thing, let's do it in a large scale and give it to our customers who are coming and telling them that this is made with this. So customers know that it's coming from the offcuts, but at the same time, they know that we as a food business owner are really caring about the waste. So it's an indirect way of telling them don't waste food. That's a good thing.
That's really cute, kind of like Nana or Grandma's kind of wisdom being adopted by the industry and the industry being proud to tell people that they're using up food waste in innovative ways. What a change.
It is. Yeah. See, because I can tell you one story. One of the manager who told me that he was running a Sri Lankan fusion cafe during COVID. And his main customers were the tradies who were doing some construction work nearby, and there was no other shops open during COVID time. So he had sort of, the restaurants on wheel type of cafeterias. So all the tradies were coming. So initially he saw that tradies always love to have the big amount of like wrap or sandwiches, and then they leave half on the plate. So which he found really wasteful, especially during COVID time. So he started taking pictures of those and putting on the wall of his cafes and just telling them, why did you waste that? Don't waste that. Maybe take half of that to your friends. Maybe give it someone needy people. And those sort of small posters really started taking like highlight, and people started taking notice of that. And that's how he improved the awareness among his community. So that's really interesting that you get.
Yeah. And the tradies didn't get offended. They didn't stop coming to buy their sandwiches and wraps.
Initially, they have no other choice because that's the only store open nearby because it's a COVID lockdown. But then eventually they realized and they started packing it, saying, hey, can you pack it for me so I can take it with me? So they got that idea that if I can't have full sandwich, like you remember, that Subway sandwich, sometimes like foot long, it's too long. So you can cut it down and eat now, and the rest half you can eat later, or you can give it to someone else. Why don't you do that?
I am a big fan of asking for takeaways, but I'm always amazed when I dine out with other people. A lot of people sort of feel like it's kind of, I don't know, beneath them, or that they are looking cheap, or I don't know. A lot of people are really embarrassed to ask for a doggy bag. I don't even know where the term doggy bag came from.
Yeah. Yes. And again, that's part of the culture. And that's a very great point you said, because we found many of the restaurants business trying to put it on the customer, saying, I tell them that please take it with you, but they don't want to, especially when they're with their friends. They want to impress their friends. And if their friends don't do it, they won't do it. Because it's a cultural issue. Maybe they're showing that, oh, okay, I'm eating leftover, which is not very cool thing to do. So they don't want to do that. So yeah, it is correct that customers don't like to do that. And also there is a catch here. Many restaurants don't want to push that because they're scared about liability, that if something happens by eating that, because once it leaves your premise, you don't know how the customer's handling that. So maybe they're just keeping it in the fridge and eating after 7 days and it's already in a bad condition and they have some disease after that. Then they can come back to the restaurant and saying, because eating that, I have this problem. So they will be liable.
Is that a real concern? Has that happened much?
Never happened. And also, there is a regulation that we call liability regulations here in the restaurant industry, and which is saying that food goes outside your premise, and if it is consumed by someone else and if something happened, restaurant is not liable for that. But many restaurants don't know about it.
Okay. And is that different in every state and territory in Australia, or is that pretty much?
No, it's a different thing. We have a different name for that in USA, in Europe, in Australia. We have different name for that. But the actual law is same, that if leaves your premise, it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
So, but many restaurants don't know or don't want to take that chance. That's the issue.
I'm always, box it up. I want to go. Yeah. Then I feel guilty about the plastic, but we do reuse the plastic takeaway containers.
Yes.
They're invariably plastic, although I've noticed a trend towards cardboard. But I must say, when I lived in Taiwan, particularly because of their Buddhist ethos, that was a very strong cultural factor, they had a predispensation to reduce waste. And so a lot of the sort of luxurious banquets that I went to tended to be 8 courses rather than 10. Now, that probably doesn't sound like much, but just even that reduction of the 2 courses made a huge difference when you're doing them regularly. And it was culturally acceptable to take things away. So once I figured that out, often what I do is I'd sort of say to them, the next course, I'm not going to eat. Could you just package that one up and have it ready for me? And they'd say, yes. So at a banquet, I might only eat 5 or 6 dishes and then actually take the rest home, which was great. And people were very happy to do that. They saw that as socially acceptable, but not everywhere.
Not everywhere, yes. And And especially if you are in a date, you don't know your partner would love it or not. So they don't want to take that risk anyway. So that's the challenge.
See who's going to fight over leftovers and then see if someone's going to have a coupon to get a discount on top of that to see how that will go.
Yes.
There's a lot of factors there when trying to impress other people.
And that's where all these social norms, hidden agendas and beliefs are there for so many years that it's hard to break down, that we found out. Like myself and my co-authors and co-researchers are all coming from supply chain and operation background. So when we started the research, we thought the issue is with the operations of business and supply chain issue. But then we realized it's more about the customer's hidden beliefs and social norms, which are actually prohibiting us to do something and change the way we behave. And that's causing a lot of food waste.
That's fascinating, even in a cost of living crisis.
It is, yeah. And also one of the findings we have is it depends on which restaurants you're going. So if it is a fast food restaurants, people really don't care because it's a fast food. They have no connection with the food that they're buying. They will just go to the counter and they say, oh, get a fish burger or chicken burger, whatever. And they eat or don't eat, they don't care. But if you go to a very fashionable high-end restaurants, the kitchen is open. You can see the chefs cooking. You feel the connection and you tend to waste less. So same customers behave differently based on the environment that are there.
Well, I must say, I have been known on occasion to take French fries or chips home and to make meals out of them. In the past, I've done all sorts of different things, including them in almost Japanese style dishes. But now I've discovered that air fryers are really good for reheating chips, I've found.
Yes, people do. They're saying it is good. Yeah. Generally, it gets soggy when you bring home and eat that.
Yes. I mean, I know fried foods aren't very good, but we're talking about what you're doing when it's takeaway food or you want a treat. So it's like not everyday food.
Yes.
It's not like taking home your leftover kale or other things. But yeah, I'm always really surprised how, even things like chips, they do actually taste better and you can use them in other things as well. So, yeah.
And the problem is not also taking them, but many customers take them with a good intention, but then they leave it in the fridge and forget about it. And then when they bring it out, they think, it's 3-4 days old. Maybe it's not worth. So throw it. So ultimately, it's going to the landfill. That is the biggest challenge.
Well, yes, I know. There's the whole sniff test thing, but, it's not always really scientifically correct. Are there some sort of areas of food that you take home that you need to be more careful with than others?
Yes. So the one that are with a lot of what you call the soup type products where there's a more chance that they're going to get spoiled very quickly. With the sauce type of products, again, similar thing. Better to take the sandwich type of products which are more dry so you can keep it longer term in the fridge rather than with curries and sauce. And another thing is when you bring it home, better to put it back in the fridge immediately rather than leaving outside for long. You don't know when it is made at the restaurant. Sometimes restaurants made it beforehand and they wait for you to order and then they just assemble together and give it to you. So if you really want to reuse them, better to put them in the fridge and reuse in next 1 or 2 days. Don't leave it for long. Ultimately, then it will be reused.
That's a great tip. And on leftover sandwiches, often one of the key, things that prevent people reusing them is because of a concern about it going soggy. Well, a good sandwich press is invaluable there. Air fryer for chips and sandwich presses for leftover sandwiches. I think, working in an office, often what will happen is that at some point someone will have had course or they've had a planning day and there'll be all these leftover sandwiches. Well, taking sandwiches home and then putting them into the sandwich press the next day, I found works really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Good point. And I also like to highlight another thing, which is food donation, which is a big area. Like food bank is there to get the leftover from the restaurants, parties, any conferences, workshops. So food bank is always there, standing by to get all the extra things that we have left over. But the problem with the food bank is, you have to call them. You have to tell them that we are having this sort of big parties. So please send someone around this time to get all the leftovers, which is extra work for the people working in the restaurant. So they're saying during our busy time, we can't focus on whatever the leftovers are, and we can't just send any employees to properly maintain them, because when you're giving it to the food bank, you have to put them in the refrigerator as well. So our employees are fully booked serving our customers. So we can't just have them and saying, oh, you are there just to look after all the leftovers and put them in a container, put them in the refrigerator. And when food bank comes, you give it to them. So that's extra money for them. So much easier to throw them rather than going in this long supply chain area. So that's another big point.
It's really sad, but it does make sense, really, because you need to have someone who's going to greet the person when they come and show them, at the back or where all the food is, and have sufficient containers. And I guess then too, they do call a food bank person to come and there isn't enough food because they use it all up. That's sort of embarrassing as well.
Yeah. So recently we had a big workshop at our university. So when we thought we would have around 35, we predicted the weather would be very sunny. But then on the day, it was very cold, windy. We know Melbourne weather. So we out of 35, we had only 15 arrived. So the restaurants where we ordered the food, they're taking away all the leftovers. And I actually personally went to them and saying, what are you going to do all these? Are you going to throw them? They're saying, no, we have food banks. So we don't have to take them even to the restaurant. Food bank will come here at the premise, and from there, they will take all the leftover. So their job is nothing. Their job is just to take from the table, going to outside, and food bank will take care of everything. So if you want, food bank can be very flexible and providing their own container, own boxes and everything through which they can take it away.
I bet they didn't expect a researcher who researches on this topic to be asking them what they were doing.
Oh,
with the food waste.
She was really surprised why I'm asking this question.
Who's watching?
Because I'm so worried. But there's a pile of sandwiches they were just taking away. I was thinking, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to throw them? Then they assured me, no, we are not. So really.
I remember years ago when the trend towards bigger plates came in, and at first it was like a small serve on a big plate. And this was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of trendy. But now I've noticed that those big plates have actually become norm, and that the serving has filled up for the whole plate. Is this an issue too? Are Australians eating portion sizes that are too large?
I don't think that is the situation in every restaurant. For fast food restaurants, they have only one size. So even if Australians eating large or small doesn't matter, they have to take only one size. But in many restaurants, they have started introducing different sizes: small size, medium size, and large size. And they also have kid size. So even an adult go and ask for a kid size, you can get it. So after COVID, this is becoming a norm in the industry where there are different sizes. So when we interviewed, we asked this question to the managers, and all fast food managers said, no, we do not have any size. We have a standard size because we have to maintain our standard structure and operation. But other restaurants, if it is a high-end or mid-end restaurants, they said we do have different sizes. But the challenge here is we cannot tell customers what size is suitable for you, because that could be annoying for the customer. If customers come to us and ask, if they're saying that what size do you see, or how much do you think this sort of size would be, then we will tell them. But we cannot be very proactive and say, oh, you don't look like you're going to have a large size and you don't take that.
You should be eating less, ma'am. Let me suggest a small size for you.
So that is again a bit challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine, most definitely. Now, finally, do you have a Frugalista tip to share?
One thing I like to share is when you're paying money, please think before you waste that. You are not wasting food, you are wasting your money. So if you look at the food in this way, then you may think twice. So every bit of thing you're wasting, it may sound like it's a food, but it's money, your hard-earned money that is wasted. If you look at the research paper, you will see food waste has environmental challenges, social challenges. But if you don't worry about environment, if you don't worry about social issues, don't need to worry about it. you should worry about the money that you're wasting. So my suggestion here is talk to the people who are serving you. Ask them that if you don't know if you're trying a new food, try them. But before you ask them that what is your suggestion here? Do you think this food is having this or that? Because after you order, it's coming to you and now you're saying, it doesn't taste good. It is not a good thing to do. So before you order, if it is a new food, ask them. If you go to a restaurant where you see a lot of campaign there, posters there talking about reducing food waste, support them. It's good for you, your money, your wallet, and also good for the people who are making it. So you're showing respect to them as well. That is my suggestion.
They are all great suggestions, and I totally agree with that. My mum often said that you work so hard for your money, why throw it in the bin? And you do pay for those things indirectly when you go to a restaurant. It mightn't be directly, but you are still paying for that food waste.
Yeah. And I think we used to have that tradition of like whichever country we're coming from, our parents, grandparents were really good in reducing food waste. Like they always tried to reuse it in some way. I remember my mom, whatever I couldn't eat, she never threw it. She used it in some way rather than wasting it. But maybe from my generation, we started looking at it in a different way, or I don't know. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I don't know too. I mean, I think back to my time in Taiwan and, they would have communal dishes and you would only take as much as you wanted the first time and then you would have more. And of course, it can be difficult. You have to watch, in a pandemic about how to be hygienic with that.
Yeah.
There are challenges, such as not everyone using their own utensil spoons and dipping it back into communal food.
Yes, yeah.
But at least it did reduce food waste. And then when it came to packing it up, it was kind of easier because it wasn't stuff that was already on someone's plate and was half-eaten.
Yeah. And COVID actually taught us so many things. I'm not talking about the negative things, but at least positive thing is sharing is always better. So if you can't have it your own, then share it with someone else who may love it. So rather than throwing it to the bean never loves a lot of things. That's why we have smelly beans. So beans never like them. So better share with someone who like it or need it, rather saying.
Fabulous. Better share with someone who likes it or needs it. That's a great way to end this session. So thank you so much once again for being my guest on the Joyful Frugalista. Please join the Joyful Frugalista Facebook group to have conversations about this and other podcasts. Thank you very much.
What if
The Joyful Frugalista does not provide financial advice. Any opinions or information shared are my views or those of my guests. Please consider seeking independent legal, financial, taxation or other advice regarding your unique circumstances.